hi. We're so happy. And my dog,
I'm so sorry. It took a while, but you know, here I am.
we have
Awesome.
my dog Luna with us.
Yeah. Here's Luna.
Oh, good.
How are
Yes,
you?
there are dogs. Probably a cat will join.
Excellent.
Oh,
Anyway, cool.
so great.
So
Yeah, I'm Alison.
And I'm Jean.
nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you. Your mission and your work is so wonderful because I feel like you're pulling back a veil on things that have been so like either ignored or kept hidden and kept secrets within families. And I feel like when you're a person looking into a family that has a certain amount, a well-known name or celebrity, you think, oh, they must live a perfect life. And yet we find that everybody has issues and problems and things that need to be looked at. So I just wanted to really take a moment to thank you so much, because your work talking about this has opened up a lot of discussions even within our home. So I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, it is a passion. It's not for any other reason than I know that there are solutions, and people don't think there are solutions. They think that, you know, the minute you feel as though there's any kind of mental imbalance that it's like this, I don't know, it's like a scarlet letter on your chest. You know, you're not, then all of a sudden your life can't be normal, or you can't move forward, or you can't grow, or whatever. And I happen to know that there's just a lot of ways that we can take responsibility for our mental health by looking at our story, our genetics, the way we live our lives. You know, so many different elements are involved in creating a balanced and healthy brain. And mental well-being. And it's a daily process, and it's a daily responsibility. And I think that's, for me, that's the key, is sharing that, you know, first of all, there are solutions. Secondly, I've struggled. I've had, you know, all kinds of crazy thoughts in my life. I come from 7 suicides. I've got all this stuff in my family that led me to be a fearful person for many years about kind of addiction and mental health, and like, is it a virus? Can you catch it? Like, you know, like what, when does it happen? And realize, and the more I have looked in and dove into my own story, the more I realized that we have so much power to change our lives and change the way that our lives are and the way that our brains are. And we're not given that information because it's really within our purview. And I'm not talking about, you know, whether you take pharmaceuticals or not. You know, I'm not talking about getting therapy or not getting therapy. I'm talking about how you live your life. And taking responsibility for that. And that can also kind of inform the other things that you do, whether it's therapy, whether you need to take medication, you know, there's a laundry list of things, but how you're living your daily life. And that's kind of what I key into, because that's really what I understand most and has been the biggest benefit for me. So yeah, I mean, I love the work that I'm doing, in the sense that I just know what it's like to feel a little bit lost and isolated. And when you realize that you're not, that so, like you said, you know, everybody's got a story. Everybody's dealing with something. It doesn't matter if you're worth $1 billion and a super celebrity and this, that, and the other thing. You know, we live in a world that is challenging, you know, and we probably always have lived in that world, but now we know about it. And we know about everybody else's life. So we have to negotiate those waters differently, and we have to really orchestrate our lives in order to be in balance with all of that.
Yeah, I love that you say that, Mariel. And you speak about taking the time in the morning to sort of set your course, right? And can
Yes.
you share with some of our viewers, like, what is that for you personally?
Well, there's a lot of things that I do in the morning, and because I think that morning is such a powerful kind of, it really sets up how your day is going to be. So I wake up, I'm an early riser. I feel that the circadian, I think that when you key into your circadian clock, which is the clock that regulates how you are with the sunrise and the sunset and how much sleep you get and all that. All of those things are so incredibly important. So if you had a good night's rest and you wake up early, and I'm not saying that, oh, you have to do this. It's just, I happen to know that this really works for me. And it's kind of a given that the body clock is governed by something much bigger than our desires or our wanting to party, or
Right.
calling ourselves a night person versus a day person. We're kind of ingrained as the primal beings that we actually basically are to do certain things. So when I've had a good night's sleep, I wake up early, and I do some stretching in bed. Bobby, my significant other, got me started stretching in bed. And it used to irritate me because it was like, oh God, I have to do this. And then I have to get up. Anyway, so I just do a little bit of stretching, but
Here's
it's really
my
nice
leg
to kind of
over
like
you.
move the body. Well, because we've been sleeping and we put our blood pools. So it's like in one area. So it's like nice to just move the body just a little bit in kind of this rocking motion and whatever. Then I get up and I meditate. I do breathing exercises. I think there's many different forms of meditation, but I think meditation is a really powerful tool for well-being. It can change your life because it kind of takes the focus away from the narcissistic view of ourselves into a place of when you have more awareness of the world that you live in, you become more compassionate in a way. And when you start to become more compassionate and can focus on others and your surrounding people and area and environment, it just becomes it makes you I don't know, you find yourself a more happy person, when you can direct outwards instead of always like looking at myself and my problems and this, that, and the other thing. So I meditate, I do breathing exercises. I have a really great friend. Her name is Beat Simkin, who is kind of a self-proclaimed spiritual guru, but she's also just like really cool. And she has this breathing technique that's very profound. And her, you can follow her, and she's called Guided by Beat. But anyway, her breathing technique's really powerful because I've done Wim Hof stuff for years. I don't know if your audience is aware of Wim Hof with the breathing technique and, cold plunges, which I do. Don't do that first thing in the morning. That's just too shocking for my system. I do that at the end of the day. But, and today it was so cold outside. I was like, is this a day that I'm going to do this? But anyway, so I do that. And then I write in a journal, not for long. I started writing in a journal years ago. I don't know if you remember the book, The Artist's Way.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, right. And it was, I think it was the 90s, and, everybody was doing it, but they talked about morning pages, and I've always done morning. I wrote in a journal before that, but it became kind of very habitual. So I tend to write 2 to 3 pages every day. And sometimes, like meditation, it's annoying and you think, you kind of
yeah.
Whatever, gosh, I'm saying the same thing that I said yesterday or a week ago or whatever. And then all of a sudden you kind of kick into gear and things start to come out of you. And I think it's powerful. And I also think that because we live in this kind of social media world, it's nice to take pen to hand and pen to paper and just write, like see your writing, like I don't think many people do that very often. I think it's really nice. So after that, I should say that the first thing I do actually before I meditate is I drink water. Bobby and I are big believers that water is just such a profound and important, part of our lives. We need water, and we're made up of hopefully 70% water. And sometimes if you're in a drought, you're 60%, but a baby is like 90% water. Wow. So we realize that, and when people get older, the aging process is really about your inability to hydrate. We become dehydrated. So water is extremely important, and we drink really good water. I mean, fortunately, now that we live in Idaho, we have well water. The water's so good. Wow. But we really focus on drinking a lot of water in the morning, and we have contests. We're a little weird. Wait, it's like, how much water you drink today? I'm like, you're bigger than I am, so back off.
That's funny.
And then I go to my meditation. I drink coffee. He's like, doesn't believe in coffee, but I'm a big believer that there are certain people that actually benefit from caffeine, right? But in any choice I make in something I consume, I try to make it organic, sustainable, when it comes to food, consciously and humanely raised, pasture raised and pasture finished, like if you're going to eat meat, be conscious in the way that you do that. So, I don't tell anybody what to do. I just kind of share what I do. And I think having an ethical and moral kind of compass when it comes to food and eating and water and how you have it affect on the environment that you live in, I think is really important. It's also really important for your brain. Everything that I do always comes back to a balancing of what's going on in your head. It's quite amazing that our lifestyle can have so much effect on our brain. And for so long, we have sort of, as a culture, detached our brain from our body. It's like the body's doing this and the brain is doing that. And, neither the two shall meet. But the truth is, one can't exist without the other. Right. So a balanced body helps create a balanced brain, and vice versa.
That's amazing. When you said earlier that about taking responsibility, are these the steps that you talk about, or are you thinking more even a little bit earlier? Like I'm thinking your morning ritual is like phenomenal. Some mornings I'm lucky that I'm out of bed. So like for me though, I have noticed that my fears or my anxieties have lessened just by being awareness of the love in my life. Like that's sort of been where I am feeling responsible. So like for someone that is just starting off, are there a couple of steps that you can take to just begin this process?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to start a process of becoming aware and what you mentioned, and you briefly touched on it, is incredibly important. And it's something I do in my meditation, is gratitude. Mm-hmm. There's a whole section of like, however many minutes, that was the dog, not me. Making a lot of sound down there. That when we give thanks to the people in our lives, right? You give thanks to yourself because you're here for the reason that you made the conscious choice to say, I'm here today and I intend to make this a good day. Or before practicing meditation. And by the way, when I say meditation, it doesn't have to be an hour long. It doesn't have to be a half an hour long. You can start out with 5 minutes, right? So you don't have to make it like, oh my God, I've got to do all this stuff. And, I've got to put in all this time and I got to turn thoughts off. And none of that happens, by the way. We're human beings. We can't turn thoughts off. Okay, this dog is out of control. Like stretching. He's all
How
happy
cute
about
though. Very.
that. There he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so giving yourself kind of a break and just saying, look, if I've only got 5 minutes, I've got 5 minutes. And if my brain just won't let go, my brain won't let go. It's okay. It's not a contest or a race.
Yeah.
It's just about taking the time to be still. So, and meditation is powerful. It's kind of it has a cumulative effect. And even when you start out day 1, by day 10, you see tremendous strides. And there's a lot of actually really good apps out there that are helpful for meditation. Headspace, I think Calm is okay. I really like Headspace. I really like Fit Mind. They're powerful and they're easy. Like they show you and they talk to you and they guide you. And being guided sometimes when you're starting out is helpful, right? Because sitting there in an empty room by yourself, going, holy shit, what do I do now? And oh no, sometimes it can be overwhelming, and it shouldn't be, because it is your time to get quiet. It's to quiet the mind and to observe the mind when it jumps around. We call it kind of in yoga talk, we sort of call it the monkey mind, the brain that just can't stop, moving around. So it really, and having gratitude is really helpful. That's one of the things when I started meditating, and I didn't know what to think about because my brain was thinking about 8 million zillion things. And by the way, in your meditation, if something's super important, you will remember it 5 minutes later, right? If it's life and death, I promise you're not going to forget. So you need to allow thoughts to come and just allow them to kind of just fade away, fade into the background. Just, they're going to come, but you don't need to go on a ride with them, right? You can just go back to breathing and thinking about breath, or go back to being thankful to the ones that you love in your life, or go back to focusing love towards those people, or focusing love towards yourself, or even focusing love towards the inner child, the child in you that probably didn't feel loved at certain points in their childhood. Not everybody. Some people had gloriously loving childhoods and some people didn't feel that or felt abandoned. So sometimes tuning into gratitude towards oneself is really powerful, even for just a minute. So it's those little tools that can really help a person in a morning practice.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful. Did you raise your daughters that way? Did you raise them with, I'm going to tell you about the power of meditation, or was that like a natural expression of your?
Yes, I actually I did. And it was funny. I posted not too long ago on my Instagram this picture of my girls. I was like so proud. My girls who, they were small. They're now 32 and 34.
Wow.
But they were small. They were probably 3 and 5, and they were sitting in bed, and we were all 3 sitting there, and I'm meditating, and I would meditate and thought that they were meditating too. And apparently, according to them, during a Mother's Day celebration, they laughed so loud. Oh, every time you would meditate, and the minute we saw that your eyes were closed and you were like deep in whatever you were doing, we would sit there and make faces in front of your face. I was like,
I love that.
So typical. But it was funny. So I posted this picture and Jewel, the singer goes, "Oh my God, that's so precious and so amazing." I said, "If you only knew what was really going on, you wouldn't think they were so great." But whatever.
Camera's off, you're getting a face, That's great.
How deep is mom really in there?
Right.
See if you can hit her without hitting her.
I love that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Do you find there are any, gifts to the sides of you that aren't calm?
That aren't calm?
Yeah, like, do you find any gifts in your, in the sides of you that maybe are the monkey mind?
Right.
And can you talk a little about that?
Absolutely.
'Cause
I mean,
sometimes I feel like people just want to shut it up.
absolutely. And the truth is, all parts of ourselves create who we are, right?
Right.
So when I say that I have this morning and I do this thing, it's not every morning that it's blissful, right? Yesterday I had I was cranky and it was annoying and, and that's okay, because that's part of the texture of who we are. I do believe, and thank you for the question, because it's important. It's important to note that we are the combination of our good and bad thoughts and our dark and our light. We are the balance of that. It just means that you focus on what you want, not what you don't want, right?
Right.
In life, if you want something, it's best to focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. And what you realize is through meditation is when you get still, you start to realize that your kind of reptilian brain focuses on negative things, because it's in survival mode. It's trying to survive, right? So it's saying, I don't want this, I don't want that. But the problem with the brain is when we say, I don't want something, it doesn't hear the negative, it hears that that's what you do want. So it keeps drawing to you these, and we keep going, why do bad things keep happening? Because you're so trying to push them away instead of accepting that it's a balance of those things. So accept that we have dark thoughts, right?
Right.
But we focus on what we want and the positive. And it doesn't mean that the negative doesn't exist and doesn't color who we are and make us real and human, because I'm as human and flawed and I'm not perfect and I don't do it perfectly. I have intentions to be, to have a balanced everything. And, I have intentions to be on time for this interview, but,
And it's perfect. And it's perfect.
And it's absolutely. So Mariel, if someone is suspecting that someone is contemplating suicide, and they don't want to rock the boat or whatever, what would you advise?
Well, it's super challenging, right? It's super challenging. There's a lot of organizations out there that are very helpful. NAMI, Mental Health America. They have the whole questionnaire, so you can look online, see those like, big red flags that come up. The interesting thing that I found in my kind of research about suicide is that oftentimes it's not what you expect. It's not, oh, I'm depressed, I'm talking about it. Sometimes it is, don't get me wrong. Sometimes people will actually project certain things and give you warning signs that if you're paying attention, you should do something. Like, don't not do something because you don't, like you said, you don't want to rock the boat. Say, look, I'm anxious, that I get a strong feeling that you're not feeling good about yourself or that you want to do something to yourself. I want to know if I can help you, or if I can direct you towards somebody who can help you, or if I can just listen. Can I just be a person who hears you? Can you just tell me what's going on? And I will say nothing. I will have no judgment. Because a lot of times people in crisis will feel incredibly isolated and unheard. So sometimes they just need to be heard. Now, I'm not saying that this is a solution and everybody who feels this way is not going to take their life. And please know that if somebody in your life does succeed in taking their life, it's not your fault, because suicide is very complicated. It's, it can be planned for 20 years or 20 minutes of a bad day, right? It is so bizarre because the chemicals and things that go into our brain not being in this place of balance is pretty severe. But what I find interesting is that sometimes it's not what they're saying. It's that they've changed the way they do things. All of a sudden, something is completely different. And you go like, wow, that's really weird. This person's never been like that before. But it's so hard as a person sitting on the sidelines to know, right? But my biggest thing for people that I know in my life that struggle, I think not providing lots of clinical information, but just being a human who will actually hear somebody else's story and make no judgment about it. That can be a profound help to somebody. Again, I'm not saying that that's the sole solution to suicide because it's too complicated for something so simplistic. But I know that with mental health of any kind, being a very vibrant listener is profound.
That's so beautiful. I think because I think in a society where there seems to be a lot of focus put on perfection or success, that I feel like what you're saying is saying, take off the shame, take off the guilt. That is not even, we're not even in that arena.
Right.
We're just going to allow someone to express, it almost gives me chills what you said, allow someone to express themselves and just listen, And also,
it's hard too, because sometimes you won't want to hear what they have to say.
Yes.
And you want to fix,
and we're fixers, because if you want to help somebody, you want to fix them, right? You want to give them a solution. And it's not our solution to give, right? It's for them to find. But you being present for them, or people like to say, give them space, but it's overused, but it's true. Like if you can hold space or hold a place where they can feel safe enough to talk about what's going on in them, that's so important.
It's so profound, because I feel like sometimes people, you're always surprised when you read about someone like that you've looked up to, or someone oh, they're a person.
I mean, we started our Inside Wink website, like winking, acknowledging the goodness within people and how we express it creatively out in the world, whether it's, making a nice cup of coffee or putting a rose in a vase. I mean, everything, we are creative. And when Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain took their lives, I thought, wow, what must they have been thinking to go, I'm done. And I remember talking to my kids about it, and they were shaken up,
Of course they were. And it blows you, it blows your mind. You're like, what? No, Anthony was so cool, and Kate Spade, and Robin Williams. Like, no, these are people we admire and we think have got it together. But somebody's internal trauma, and it's why I love meditation so much, because it gives you it creates compassion within you. You know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about compassion often, even wrote a book about it. It's so important that we just go, oh my God, you know, people's struggles, and it's the internal struggle that we don't see, right? That we don't see. Yes, it looks like Robin Williams got it all made, you know, he's living the life, he makes everybody laugh, but he couldn't make himself smile, right? So his internal pain was just this, you know, and how do you explain that?
Right.
And maybe he just felt, I can't share that with somebody. Like, you know, like I can joke about it, but I can't share it because, you know, what will people, who knows what he thought, you know, I don't even pretend to know, but it's just like, you just, your heart breaks. So it's heartbreaking. And especially with COVID and all that stuff, you know, suicide is higher than it's ever been. And especially in kids. And that really worries me, that children think it's an option, right? That's an option. When I was a kid, suicide was not an option.
Yeah.
You didn't think, like, what? I mean, you heard about older people, like, sort of, you know, I heard about my grandfather, sort of, but it wasn't like, now kids, it's like, you know, it's part of the texture of their world. And it hurts. And I want to do something for kids, you know, like I really want them to have an education about mental health. Because the problem with kids is that, you know, I don't know, you can be bullied, somebody can break up with you, somebody can, you know, unfriend you, whatever. And as a kid, we don't have a wealth of life experience to go, oh, you know, whatever, you know, life change.
Right.
I know by tomorrow or in a week, this will all be, you know, just nothing. But as a kid, you don't know that. You're far more present, right? So you feel as though that's the entire world.
Yes.
So there has to be an education about the fact that when traumatic things happen, they always will change. It doesn't mean they're not painful. It doesn't mean that you weren't hurt. It doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't mean that you have to take your life because next week things will be different.
Right.
True.
That's so beautiful that you say that, because I remember when my kids would break up with somebody or someone would break up with them, and that pain felt to them eternal.
The end of the world. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I said, I got to tell you, in 3 weeks, it just give me those 21 days. You know? Let's just get through those 21 days and see.
Yeah.
And
new pattern, right?
We're in a different place. But you are right. It never occurred to me that with age, we get that roadmap that shows us. It never occurred to me. That's such a great point, that the age allows us to have that bank of knowing, oh, that sucks, but I'm going to feel differently.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it doesn't mean that, you know, adults don't take their lives, because we know they do, but it just means for kids, it's just such a different, it's a different world. And obviously they're looking at social media, believing what they're seeing, you know, right? Yeah. Thinking that those are all, you know, all those beautiful pictures of all those people that they admire are not fixed.
Yeah.
Hello. Right.
Guys,
let's all be honest. I don't put up ugly pictures of myself, and, you know, whatever, but let's know that that's, you know, the reality is, like, kids need to know that. Right. I think they don't know that.
Right, I agree. Do you guys remember when Jamie Lee Curtis did some cover and didn't wear makeup and showed herself in underwear?
Yeah, I think it was More Magazine, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, it was More Magazine. It was years ago, right?
Yeah. So much. You know, I'm this lumpy person in the Bronx going, oh, well, and then you looked at that and you went, wow, like, look at that. And you know, and showing that she was photoshopped, I can't tell you, that is like a vivid, burned in my psyche. I thought that was so, and it was considered brave just to be real.
Just to be real. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's rough. It's a rough world. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that stuff doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
You know,
you're,
it's hard. It's hard to
but
get older.
you're
It's hard
talking
to get
about
older in a world where everything has to be shiny and perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, get older, but yeah.
yeah. But this beauty of
You know, we don't need to post everything about our lives, right? We just don't need to post from morning till night.
That's so
You know,
true.
whatever.
I agree. But you have such a beauty inside you.
You do, Mariel. You
Aw.
exude. You
Yeah.
exude this. You know, obviously you're physically a very beautiful woman, but there is this. This is why I was like, oh, I hope we could get Mariel to just spend a little time with us. The work that you've done within yourself to, like, it's like building a house on cement, not on sand, or, you know, you
Yeah.
Right.
really, you've done the work, and it takes time. The world is so distracting to pull you out of the seat of your consciousness, the seat of your true power, and you did it. And look
Yeah.
at you now, taking that light and that wisdom and leaving this legacy of love for
Yeah.
thousands of people. And
Well, thank you.
We really
Yeah.
appreciate, and you have a real hang around ability.
I like
You
that.
know what I
That's
mean?
good.
Like,
Hang around ability.
it just seems like, oh, you can hang around with you. Do you know?
Yeah.
Well,
I thought that she's been around, like, we know you as a childhood.
Oh
act-
no, I meant
like
like
she's had a
I
succinct-
want to go pet your dog.
Yeah, right. No, I understood very well what you meant, and it's lovely. It's a lovely compliment because I am so normal. I'm so insanely normal. It's like sad.
Well, we appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this time.
You.
Yeah.
What
talk
a beautiful conversation. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Mm.
thank you. And you know, we'll write a little article about this and have people look at your website. I love your theme of storytelling. That's really just lovely.
you.
And
Well, highlight your book
yes,
that you wrote with
And
Bob.
I just started a foundation. I'm sort of not up and running and don't have a website yet, but it's called Mariel Hemingway Foundation, or MH Foundation. So mental
That's a
health,
good
Mariel
one.
Hemingway, whatever. Anyway.
is there?
Yeah.
Can we highlight that also in the?
Well, you can talk about it. I wish I could say that I'd send you to the website, but we're not there yet. You know, whatever. It's a process.
Well,
But
I hope it's a huge success, and when it is, we'll focus on it again.
I would love that. And thank you for the conversation, because it's not often that people like really talk about it at a deep level. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mariel.